Jonathan Shuskey is out to prove there is no timeline on what you want to accomplish. The Stephen F. Austin men's golfer has made national headlines after retiring from the Army, coming back to school, and competing as a Division I student athlete.
I'm old enough to be all of their dads, you know. Being on campus it's weird. Even now, like I've been here for like 4 months or whatever, it's been 5 months. And and there's still people that kind of give you that sideways look, like, what's this dude doing in class with me right now?
Jonathan Shuskey is believed to be the oldest NCAA Division I student athlete at 41 years old. He plays golf for the Lumberjacks, a sport he picked up later in life.
I grew up in North Carolina, and so, I mean, you don't have an option in that state. Like, everybody plays basketball there. And I did. I fell in love with the game. At some point along the line, like I got into golf, like with some buddies, some younger friends of mine that played, and but it was never anything that I thought was like a serious. Like I didn't even play high school golf.
After high school, Shuskey enlisted in the Army, where he would spend 20 years serving the United States. That included 4 tours in Afghanistan and 1 in the Philippines. That is where he really discovered his passion for golf.
There's this misconception. I think people believe that when you're in the Army, especially like a combat MOS, like being an infantry guy, that like that's just all you do and you never have any time off. But like, yeah, we still get time off. Like we get the weekend off and stuff like that. And so I was able to spend time, you know, in my free time. Like that's what I did. I was at the golf course and I was practicing.
So what exactly does golf look like when you're stationed in a war zone in Kabul, Afghanistan?
There were companies or like groups or whoever that would send us, like they'd send us like boxes of like old used golf balls and send us some old clubs or whatever. And so we would hit those balls like outside the wire, is what we called it, the perimeter of our base there. And then when we would go out on patrols, we had like these pouches that we could hook on our belt, and we would collect those up as we were walking out or walking back in. And then there were days that you just like step in there and just try to hit it as hard as you can because you're just mad or, you know, trying to let some stress out or whatever. The biggest thing, it was just something to get your mind off of where you were at the moment. So that's really what we used it for more than anything else.
Ignited by a newfound passion for golf, Shuskey joined the All-Army golf team, eventually playing in the All-Army golf tournament where he won first place. After retiring from the Army, Shuskey still wanted to play golf competitively.
I called the NCAA, like literally called the NCAA and talked to a couple people about the eligibility stuff and my military service, and they told me, they were like, yeah, you still got eligibility, and so long story short, I ended up at a D2 school in Memphis last year at Christian Brothers University.
After a successful freshman campaign, Shuskey transferred to Stephen F. Austin.
We had a connection down in where he's from, and the connection spoke with my assistant coach. Assistant coach spoke with me about him. Didn't know a whole lot about him at the time. And as soon as Coach Jackson told me that he was a 20-year Army vet, he was 40 at the time, I was all on board. I was 100% committed.
Birdie.
I'll tell you, when I got here and played my first event in the fall this year, we were at Baylor, and man, when you look down the line at the driving range and there are, you know, Big 12 golf bags and like you get all these guys lined up beside you, the nerves definitely kicked in. I told Coach that day that I would have been more comfortable that day if you'd have just dropped me off in a firefight in Afghanistan than I was on that golf. Like I was nervous, and I don't mind telling anybody I was.
Getting back into shape hasn't been easy.
I'm just glad that after 20 years of being in the Army that like physically I'm able to do that stuff, you know? Like I know so many guys that got out of the Army that like their knees just wouldn't like they couldn't possibly go walk 18 holes, or their back, or, you know, whatever the case is. And so yeah, being like, I feel young being around them every day, and they kind of like, it's almost like I've found my fountain of youth, you know, being around these kids all the time.
Shuskey is also a father. He has 4 kids, his eldest being 19, a sophomore just like his dad.
It's fun comparing grades. I kicked his butt last semester, and so it's one thing, like as a parent, when you tell your kids how important it is to make good grades, oh, you got to make A's, you got to do all this stuff, and so like now I get to compete with them, which is neat.
With his post-military career, Shuskey's biggest thrill is impacting people.
I saw in the Army, I actually had a chance to coach high school football for about 4 years while I was there at Fort Benning. And knowing how much of an impact you can have on young people and kind of setting them up for life as an adult, like setting them up to just be good human beings and be good people. The impact that you can have on that age group is pretty profound. And so hopefully that's what I'm doing at the end of, my 4 years of eligibility.
His whole story of giving veterans hope after retirement or coming back from the deployment is a big deal. I love it. It's all on him. I mean, I try to talk about it all the time, but he's the inspiration on social media and things like that are a big deal and a big part of our culture at SFA as well.
During his time in Nacogdoches, Shuskey has taken his love for sports in another direction, getting in front of the camera, working on broadcasts, hosting shows, promoting everything SFA athletics. In fact, he just changed his major to broadcast journalism, a career he hopes to pursue post-graduation. For The WAC, I'm Kendra Sheehan.